The only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer! Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters, where we're going to bring you the news and reviews of some wonderful brews. My name is Dan Baker, and I'm joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner,
and our fermenter-tainer,
Wayne Baker.
And this episode, we, of course, are joined by a fourth beer buster, Mr.
Brian Ballantine.
Thank you for coming along, Brian. We'll get to know you in a little bit after our news segment, but I do want to get right into that if we could. All right, so I've got a couple stories that I saw today with the help of Wayne pointing some out to me. First thing first, it looks like Rogue, the wonderful people at Rogue, are going to be doing a couple of different things in light of the holiday season. First thing I saw is they have the quote-unquote big-ass box, which will come with 6 bottles of their big-ass Blackberry, big-ass Braggot, or big-ass Brewer's Ale, and will arrive sealed for the total of $90. Any merchandise bought alongside the box will be shipped outside it unless otherwise requested, where they can put it in that box and then seal it for you.
Oh, sort of like you can do it as a gift.
Yeah, it seems
That's
to be.
cool.
It looks really cool. You can get all the details on their website. But I just thought that was kind of funny, the big-ass name.
better than flowers.
Better than flowers.
Better than
That's
flowers.
right.
Beer is better than flowers.
Now, the other thing they
And
have
fruitcake.
doing... Yes, and fruitcake. It says here that Rogue Ales and Spirits is gearing up for winter with their Yellow Snow IPA, which I thought was hilarious when I saw this name, and I was schooled by Steph that that's been in existence for a while, has it not?
It's a good beer, yeah.
Okay, I've never really heard of it. I have to try it, though.
We'll have to taste it on the show, maybe one of our Christmas episodes.
Yes. It says here, backed by popular demand is the Yellow Snow IPA 5-liter can featuring...
I think the back by
Oh,
popular demand was
wait.
an indication that it had existed.
Right.
Wait, did you say it's
That's
going to
true.
be in a can?
Yeah, Yellow Snow IPA 5-liter can featuring a pull and turn tapping system that makes the IPA...
Oh, so it's like a mini keg.
Wait. They're
That's
making
gonna
a
say-
5-liter can.
Yes.
So
At that point, it's a keg.
It's like a mini keg.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
But you can also get it in 64-ounce Serigraphed growlers. What are you? What? Oh, acting like you're drinking the 5-liter can.
Sorry.
I got you. No, it's cool. We should set up a camera at some point so we can see us doing these crazy things.
It's theater of the mind. Dan.
Yes. This Serigraphed Growler is going to be a special addition to the Rogue Growler family that includes the Dead Guy Ale and the American Amber Ale. And Yellow Snow IPA is going to be available November through March. So towards the end of the winter season, you can still get it.
Dan, that's what you can bring to Christmas Eve.
Yellow Snow?
Yes.
Okay.
In growler.
Well,
In a 5-liter can.
okay. If I can find it, yeah, sure. Now, the flavor of it, as somebody who's never had it, I'm very anxious to...
Urine and ice.
Yes. This IPA boasts a hoppy, fruity aroma and medium body that won the gold medal. It says medal twice. That's the best part. At the gold medal.
The gold medal.
Yeah. At the 2012 World Beer Championships. And Yellow Snow is brewed using 8 ingredients, including Carafoam I'm going to pronounce so many of these wrong. Melanoidin, 2-row and Rogue Farms Dare, trademark, and Risk, trademark, malts, Amarillo hops, free-range coastal water, and Pac-Man. How can water be
Free range. Yeah, what does that mean? Free range coastal water?
As opposed to, water that is constricted.
That
Right.
is in a
Tiny
cage.
tube.
Yes, it only has 5 feet of space to move around.
Is it
Yes.
like well water?
I don't. It's free.
I've never
It's
heard
free
that.
range, but if it's in a well, that's kind of captured.
That's true. That's like a cage.
Yes.
It must be a gray water thing. They've got just big buckets where they collect the rainwater on their...
There we go, yeah.
But they make it taste good.
Free
Yes.
range coastal water. Sounds like something you'd find on a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Like all natural,
Yes.
and it's one of those kind of phrases.
The other thing that Rogue is doing, their Santa's Private Reserve is going to come back, and it's going to be in a glow-in-the-dark bottle.
Nice.
Sweet.
Which I thought was really cool. And I'm starting to really like when breweries do things like this, and they have their fancy kinds of packaging with
Yeah.
it.
Well, Rogue has a couple of beers in pink bottles. They've
Yeah.
got
They
the
do,
ba-
yeah, the
maple
the
bacon.
maple
Yeah.
bacon,
Which is
the-
good. I really, really like that. I can't thank you enough for turning me on to that stuff.
Yeah, and the well, I never had it
Right.
clearly, but I gave it to you. Their peanut butter banana,
that's
chocolate
right.
banana.
Right.
That's
I've yet to
also in
try
the.
that.
I haven't had it yet, but
Yeah.
that's also in the
Pepto-Bismol
Pepto-Bismol
pink.
bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Best way to describe it ever. It says here, and new this year, Santa's Private Reserve is made with hops and barley grown and harvested from Rogue Farms.
Oh, I thought you were going to say at the North Pole.
Oh,
That
well,
would've been
Rogue
cool.
sort of is the North
Pole
Pole
of beer.
Of beer,
for
yes.
21 and over.
There you go, yeah. And it's dedicated to the Kris Kringle in each of us. Santa's Private Reserve is available nationwide for the holiday season in Serigraph 22-ounce bottles and 12-ounce six-packs. And it is, quote, lovingly handcrafted inside and out, and every snowflake is unique, and our snowflakes take revolution seriously and glisten in the dark.
Ding.
Yes.
Each snowflake is unique.
Yes,
and
it
glows
is.
in the dark.
Yes.
And close in the
It
dark.
goes in the dark.
Oh, there's more trademark stuff here, too. This holiday elixir is brewed with Rogue Farms their trademark and Risk trademark malts, and Rogue Farms Revel trademark and Freedom trademark hops. I really wasn't aware until reading these articles that you can trademark hops because they grow.
You can.
You can, yeah.
Your own sort of, like if you
Like
you
cross-pollination
cultivate your own-
kind
Yeah, if you
of
cultivate your own, it's
Yeah.
a proprietary thing, and then nobody else can
botanical
grow
version
that.
of husbandry.
Yeah. There's also a little blurb here that I thought was kind of cool and fitting for Rogue. Rogue Ales and Spirits is an artisan varietal brewery and distillery founded in Oregon in 1988, and they've won over 1,000 awards for taste and quality, and they're available in all 50 states and 32 countries outside the U.S. And since 2008, Rogue has remained committed to saving the terroir of Oregon hops. It's Terroir.
Terroir.
Terroir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not
At
cultured.
least I'm pretty sure that's the
I
pronunciation.
That would
believe
be,
it.
yeah.
I'm going to start that again. Since 2008, Rogue has remained committed to saving the terroir of Oregon hops and barley 1 acre at a time.
I'm interested to see how you produce that segment there.
I'm just going to leave that all
Will
in.
you keep your flub
Yeah.
in?
And it's part of the fun.
No punches.
And I was talking to Wayne about this earlier, kind of going along with me really liking the packaging of it. There's one that I saw I didn't want to do in the news, but I'm going to do a blog on it and include all the pictures and everything on the website. There's going to be a zombie monkey robust porter from, I've honestly forgotten the brewery's name, but I'll put it on the website soon. It's going to be in cans, and it's got quote-unquote tactical grip on the can.
Nice.
So that way it will be the world's first can that has any kind of texture to it like that, which I thought was really cool. The logo on it was awesome,
Yeah, it's
too.
pretty
I can't
neat.
wait to share that.
That makes me think of the Evil Dead, the cover when they came out with the anniversary edition of Evil Dead, and it was like the Necronomicon, and the
Oh, yeah,
the
and the
cover
leather-
was
Really?
like
Yeah.
textured, and it felt like the dead skin.
Oh,
yeah,
I must
that's
have
pretty
missed
cool.
that.
I'm wondering, do they have
I
an
have it over there
explanation on the
somewhere.
website that it's tactile grip in case a zombie apocalypse happens so that you don't lose your can?
Right,
and you can
yeah,
bring
yeah. You
zombies
can
with
keep
it?
that beer, yeah.
Yeah. I'd say it
love
was
it.
pretty funny before we started recording as Dan was taking notes for the show. He's just kind of mumbling to himself. He's like, tactile grip. I'm like,
Oh, that totally explains
That
it.
was
Yeah.
it, yeah.
oh!
It's all comes to
It all
light
comes
now.
full circle.
Yes, it does. Now, the next slew of stories I saw, they kind of meshed together, and I want to do the couple of Rogue ones together. And now this. We're entering football season, of course, which for some of us is awesome. For other of us, you just don't care. But either way, beer is involved.
Hey, hockey season.
I know. I'm more excited about hockey, but I do like watching football on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays. The article that I saw here, it's the best stadiums for craft beer. And it starts off, and I thought this was great. Beer is to football as oxygen is to life, right? I would agree. Now, most of...
Yeah, but you can play football without beer. I mean, I think the football is to football.
What? Yeah, oxygen
Really?
is to life.
Yeah, oh, come on. I really liked that line, and now you're destroying
I'm
it.
sorry. I didn't mean to rain
It
on your
happens.
parade.
Now, most of the NFL is really sponsored by or has partnerships with the big brands, Budweiser, Miller, Coors, and so on and so forth. Especially if you look at all those Bud Light commercials that just drive you crazy.
I'm sorry. The what?
What?
The big game.
The big game.
The
big game.
The big bull game. Trademark. Copyright.
That I have to edit out.
Redacted.
Yes.
Wait, you're not allowed to call.
You are not allowed to call the big game.
Yeah. You're not. You can't say
Anything about
Super
the
Bowl.
big
You have to say
Yeah.
big game. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that they would have people scoping out podcasts,
Probably
but
not.
you never
Yeah,
want to play
just in
that game
case.
with
Okay.
layers
Yeah.
of.
Edit.
Although I suggest you don't edit it out, you just bleep it so that everybody knows what we're talking about, but you don't actually say it.
Should I leave this part in then?
I think you should.
All right,
yeah.
it's in. It's done. I don't even. Oh, yeah. So the quote unquote big game. There's a lot of Budweiser and major brand commercials in there that are kind of funny, but at the same time, if you're listening to this show, chances are you don't really like Bud Light unless you're Pop Up, as we learned last episode. But they had a list of the best stadiums for craft beer, and there was also a little list that had the most expensive beers, price per ounce, for all the NFL stadiums. I'll look at some of those. But as far as the stadiums that had the craft brews, it's a tie for 7th at the Baltimore Ravens, which is at M&T Stadium, and also the Indianapolis Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Which, fun fact, being a Ravens fan,
Uh-oh.
Flying Dog actually had an ongoing bet during the playoff season with the big brewery in the town of each of the teams that they were playing against, wherein they would do a tap takeover for whichever team won.
You know what?
So
cool.
Sam Adams did something like that when the Patriots were in
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I blocked out who the Patriots lost to that year, so I don't really recall the city. But
even up to the so that Anchor Brewing,
the big
like
game.
up, thank you, up to the,
We'll
the
believe
big
it,
game.
we'll believe
So the big game. The Ravens win the big game, and Anchor has to, for 1 week, pour Flying Dogs beers and wear Ravens like attire as they're doing it. So how pissed are you going to be if you have booked this Anchor Brewing tour months in advance and you show up and they are pouring not Anchor beer, but Flying
that
Dogs?
is
Flying Dog.
such a good point.
That's funny.
That's right, because you have to book it. I booked mine 7.5
Yeah.
months in advance.
Holy
I would have
crap.
been very, very upset.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
They'd have to have like hide it somewhere.
Unique experience.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
Good point.
But yeah, at M&T Stadium, they are serving primarily Flying Dog Brewery,
Yeah.
which I don't think I've ever had any of their beers. But
They have some good beers.
I believe it. Indianapolis Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium, they are serving Sun King Brewery, a couple particular ones. They have the Sunlight Cream Ale, the Wee Mac Scottish Ale, and Osiris Pale Ale on there, as well as some others.
WeMac was actually the Firkin at Cohen's Firkin thing.
Was that the first?
Yeah,
That's
that
right,
was the
because they were
Firkins.
out in Indianapolis for that convention. That's right.
Cool. All right.
I didn't get there because we were here having our grandfather's 80th birthday party.
Yeah, that was that day. That's right.
So I did not get to partake in that
and our
frickin'
BBQ Live
our BBQ live.
extravaganza.
Yes.
BBQ live.
Coming in at number 6 was, and I'll try to just get through these pretty quick, just so we don't run a little bit over. We had Green Bay Packers, which is Lambeau Field. I'm probably saying that wrong. My apologies to my old roommate Joe. Lambeau.
Yeah,
Lambeau.
Lambeau.
Sorry, Joe. They serve Leinenkugels being from that area, as well as New Glarus Brewing Company, Sam Adams, and they have a gluten-free from Red
It's the
Bridge.
second mention of Leinenkugel on the show, and each time Steph has made a funny.
Yes, I like their beer. Even though they are owned by one of the big companies, they've just been around since the 1800s, so they still kind of get street cred. They have a gluten-free from Red Bridge, and they also, right up the road is Badger State Brewing, if you want to go for some other craft beers before the game. At number 5, we had Pittsburgh Steelers, which play at Heinz Field. They have Church Brew Works, Harpoon,
Yum.
Anchor Steam, and Great Lakes Brewing. Number 4 would be Carolina Panthers at the Bank of America Stadium. They have, I'm assuming this is North Dakota, it's NODA Brewing Company, Big Boss Brewing, New Belgian Brewing Company, Old Mecklenburg, and there's new beer garden in Section 101 with more beers to enjoy. Number 3, we have Houston Texans at Reliance Stadium, which is Karbach Brewing Company, Shinerbach, Southern Star Brewing Company, St. Arnold Brewing Company, and more on tap. They recently added Goose Island as well. Some craft beer people are not too happy with that, but hey, it is what it is.
Hey, they make some good beers, though. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely.
If it's good beer, it's good beer.
Yeah, this is one that goes out to our dad, mine and Wayne dad. We have
Wayne dad.
Sorry, mine and Wayne's dad. Detroit Lions at Ford Field. They have Bell's Brewery, which we met Laura Bell. Yeah, she was really cool. New Holland Brewing Company, Founders Brewing Company, Atwater, Liberty Ales, Shorts Brewing Company, and they also have a new cocktail station from their local cocktail hotspot called the Sugar House. And number 1 was Seattle Seahawks at CenturyLink Field. They have over 30 beers on tap or available at the stadium. And they have a new beer hall there, the Brewham Beer Hall, and a craft house there. They feature Elysian Brewing and Two Beers Brewing. And I did kind of want to just mention, to go along to the shout out to our father, the Detroit Lions are the most expensive beer in the NFL, coming at 67 cents per ounce.
Wow.
If you keep going, some of the ones that we mentioned, we had the Colts are at 44 cents. The Falcons are at 44 in Atlanta.
That's a big difference.
It
That
is
is a big difference, yeah.
The Eagles are at 44 cents. Also, the NFL average is 44 cents. You keep going to the San Diego Chargers at 42 cents.
Who's the cheapest? Yeah.
Cheapest overall is the Carolina Panthers, who we have mentioned, averaging 27 cents per ounce.
Yeah.
The next closest is the Miami Dolphins at 35 cents per ounce. So I'll get to post that list on there too, so you can see that, and I'll try to link to the slideshow of the beers that I got this article from. Now we did go a little long on our segment there in news. I apologize, but now we finally do get to meet our guest, Brian, here. Now, Brian, you wrote a short bio for us that was like 3 lines.
Yeah.
And honestly, in those 3 lines, you captured my interest, which is really cool.
Excellent.
I saw that you were a campus minister at Alvernia University. which when I was in this area was Alvernia
was.
College.
Yeah, they did
College,
change at some
yeah.
point.
When
yeah.
did that happen?
Before I got there, I've only been
Yeah,
there
it's been a
just
while.
shy of a year.
Oh,
I want
okay.
to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago they went through the accreditation
Yeah,
process.
I remember when that happened. Yeah.
I got my undergrad at Alvernia.
When it was out. So does that default you
10
to
years ago.
Alvernia University then, since they
I
changed,
was-
or
Nope, it still says Alvernia College.
right?
You could probably get, like, if you mail it in, a new diploma that would say Alvernia University, but nobody's going to.
It's like for me at Temple, they changed the name of my major. It used to be BTMM, Broadcasting, Telecommunications, and Mass Media, and now it's something else. And I was talking to someone. It's
Something else.
I have a bachelor's degree in something.
Yeah.
else.
Well, the best part is my degree doesn't even say my major on it. It just says Bachelor of Arts presented to you on this day in February 2010.
I think most diplomas are like that. I don't
Really?
think. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
Usually
kinda
it's the big Bachelor of Arts or Bachelors of Science, and then underneath they have whatever your major.
Yeah,
within
they
that
just left my
separate
major.
place.
And in fact, the date of my graduation was wrong. As a side note, my School of Communications and Theater, we were in, I think we were February 5th of 2010. Don't ask why I remember that exact date. But they had on there January 28th because every other school at Temple graduated the week before us.
There was a bad snowstorm. I remember the day. You
Yeah, it
graduated.
was,
We were
yeah.
coming back home. There was a snowstorm. It was
And I had an entire bottle of cheap champagne to myself that night to celebrate because everybody else left.
nice.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We
I
all
wasn't-
have
I
a
was-
sad story.
Yeah. Well, I was with my roommates and they were really cool. We were having fun playing video games and watching the snow come down. But that was one of the blizzards that
At
year.
least
I
it was
think.
pretty.
Yeah, that's true. I had some really good pictures from it. But not to deviate too much. To get back to our
to our
guest here.
guest.
Now you've been home brewing for 8 years, you said,
Yeah.
right? That's cool. And you're trying to recreate Belgian beers from the year that you lived over there.
Yeah.
When did you live over there?
I spent a year abroad in my undergraduate, so my junior year I was there, and just like it was kind of like being thrown into the deep end of the pool and learning how to swim because I wasn't really a craft beer person before going over there, and then suddenly I'm just drinking all of these beers, and the Belgians are really, really good. Like most of the bars you'd go into are, like it was a college town, so there were just a ton of bars, but there would be house ales that were like pale in color and very dry and very drinkable, and you get up to go to the bathroom after having 2 of them and wonder why the floor is moving, and then you realize that it's like, oh crap, that was 8% alcohol by volume.
Don't you love those beers that you can't tell? Yeah.
Yeah. So the Belgians are really, really good at doing
Yeah,
that.
they're good at hiding the alcohol
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, there were Wayne. You always make fun of me because there was one that we did, the Woot Stout. I called it sessionable. And it was like 13% ABV. Yeah.
That's moderately sessionable.
Yeah, we went out last
sure it
weekend,
is.
Friday night. We were bar hopping in Lancaster, and I decided to have Woot Stout as my last beer of the night. Probably not a good choice. But
No,
it's still
no.
really good.
There's
Delicious
a
beer to end
lot
on.
going on in that beer.
Yeah.
There really is. Yeah, there really is. That is a fantastic beer.
It's a very good beer, but
Yeah.
there's
And we're
a lot
having
going
another
on in that one.
stone beer today during
Yes,
the
we
tasting.
are.
Ooh, yes, that's
Teaser.
right.
Preview.
Yeah. Being that was the short bio that you had written, I mean, is there anything else that you feel like our listeners should know about you?
Well, I think part of the other thing that attracts me to Belgian brewing is a lot of the Trappist beers. Being that I work as a campus minister and clearly appreciate kind of the connection between like faith and art and life. Just the way Trappist breweries run their brewery, so much like a certain percentage. I think it's around 10. We can probably edit this back in so that I sound smarter than I am at this point. So a certain percentage of their profit gets donated to nonprofits and to charity
Right.
work. That it's they're not meant to make the monastery money. It's meant to make enough money so the monastery can do what it's supposed to do, which is be monks. Like
Right.
that is
Yeah.
their end game.
I like that.
is- Yeah.
It's a good philosophy behind it.
And it's. I mean, that's an old, ancient tradition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes back centuries when water wasn't really drinkable, and so the monasteries would just like make essentially near beer and give it out free to people,
Right.
because that was more healthy to drink than the water that was coming out of their wells.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they just have these like centuries-long brewing traditions, and some of the yeasts just go back centuries, and you can't really recreate like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Was the water that was dangerous to drink, was that free range?
Yeah, I'm sure it was very free range.
Oh
But-
my.
Cool. Well, again, I want to thank you for coming on to the show. I'm very excited. It looks like a little later on we might be trying some of your home brews that you brought
Yes.
with too. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited for this.
Yeah, we're gonna get beer-educated all about Belgian beers.
Yeah, which is good. Now, I know, Wayne, you were you have another little Happy Fun Times game, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
right? All
I
right.
do indeed.
Here we go.
Now, my apologies in advance. Felix alios suscito grata fluid fun tempore ludos, suis optimum in tempus arterias beerducation et fermentertainment. Ut semper socie ad que hospitem mostridum ibit ad caput capitas e certun animus. quod fuit circa de culuum dolor nihil, in omnia facta sunt multi elit, ut serius contiecto. Facellas auctor magna tempus sexus ero, et factum esta in anno tit tue felis. Cumque conciliat propicassimum punctum hude revitermar ad partum due cerebro excitando years of beers.
Necesito hablar en español.
That was Latin.
I was going to say that's Latin.
That's
Latin?
That's
Spanish?
Latin.
Bad Latin.
It's
Well, if
something
you-
I did not understand.
I can read Latin.
Can
that was
you?
my
Oh,
undergrad.
what? That's so cool.
Yeah, that's
I
bad.
really rushed through that. I tried to practice it today, and that's Latin from Google Translate, so it's probably a bad translation. You'll see I wrote it phonetically underneath, but that didn't really help.
Yeah, wow. You made that sound like Spanish.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
yeah,
what the
that's
woman
why
on,
I thought he was
because
speaking
the
Spanish.
woman on Google Translate made it sound like Italian, actually.
Which is fair. Like,
yeah, it's close enough, right?
So you want a real Latin version
Yeah,
of this?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. This is cool.
Felix alius suscito gratia fluit fun tempora ludos. Sus optimum in tempius alterius beerducation et fermententainment. Ut semper socii atque hospitium nostrum ibit ad cupit captis in cirtamin animos. Quod fuit circa dilculium dolor nisel, in omnia facta sunt multi illit, ut scires coniecto. Facilius auctor magna tempus sexus ero, et factum est in anno, quo sit tua feliz, quicumque conciliat proprium quisquamol punctuum. Hodie revertum ad partum duo sempo extando years of beers.
All
Yay,
right.
much better. Thank you.
Well then.
So basically what that said was we're going to play Years of Beer.
He said it much cooler.
Yeah, he did. He did. So I tried to practice it, and if I had more time, I might have been able to do it better.
Yeah, it definitely sounded more Spanish when you said
Yeah.
it.
Well, I actually know a little Spanish. That's probably where that came
Tengo
from.
un gato en mis pantalones.
See. So anyway, Years of Beer. This is the second time we've played this game, and how this is going to work is I'm going to mention pivotal moments in the history of beer, and then you guys are going to try and guess what year that happened, and whoever gets closest gets a point. We're going to alternate who goes first. We'll start with Dan going first, and then go around. So without further delay or further Latin, beginning with Dan, you're the first to guess on this one. What year was the first Oktoberfest? The very
Wow.
first Oktoberfest. What year was that?
I hate that you started with me, so just to kind of say a year, I'm going to go 1650.
Okay, Dan's saying 1650, and Brian, what year do you think that was?
I'm going to go with 1530.
You're going to go with 1530, and Steph, what is your guess?
I'm going to say 1512.
1512. Well, according to my research, you were all pretty far off.
Oh.
A little too far in the past. The year that I have is 1810, actually.
Oh, I knew there was just a big
1810.
anniversary.
Yeah, so apparently on October 17th, 1810, Crown Prince Ludwig married Princess Therese of Saxe-Hildburghausen. The citizens of Munich were invited to attend the festivities in the fields in front of the city gates. At the end of the festivities, horse races were presented in front of the royal family. The following year, it was decided to have the races again, and that began the tradition of having Oktoberfest every year. Over the past 200 years, Oktoberfest has been canceled 24 times due to cholera epidemics and war.
War.
World War
And
One.
war.
World
Yeah,
War
it's
II.
Germany. So, yeah,
Or
so actually, the closest was Dan. So Dan gets a point on that one.
Hey.
1650. He was the closest to 1810. Moving along, and Brian's going to go first on this one. What year was the invention of draft beer?
Say more about what you consider draft beer.
The beer tap, basically. Yeah. Serving beer through pressurization. What year was that invented?
1826.
1826. Steph, what year do you think that was?
1870.
1870. And Dan, what's your guess?
I'll go 1850.
You're going to go 1850. You're all a little further ahead. It was actually 1785. 1785. Actually, it's a little bit touchy because Joseph Rama patented the beer engine in 1785, which was a device used to serve beer through pressurization. However, around 1691, John Lofting had invented a sucking worm machine. No giggles, please. Which was
Too late.
anyway. Which was essentially a pressurized fire hose. The London Gazette of March of that year stated of Lofting, The patentee hath also projected a very useful engine for starting of beers and other liquors, which will deliver from 20 to 30 barrels per hour, which are completely fixed with brass joints and screws at reasonable rates. So, Joseph Brahma sort of expanded on Lofting's invention and then eventually patented the beer engine, which was specifically for serving beer, which was 1785, which would mean the closest was it was Brian this time because he said 1826, so he was actually the closest on that one.
But they didn't actually use CO2 with the original beer engines.
No, it was
the
a hand.
It was
pump.
like the hand pump that you
When
see in
was
some of
the
the English
first time
pubs.
they used?
Yeah.
When was the first time they used CO2?
That I do not know.
That's what I was thinking when you said
No.
tap.
Oh yeah, I meant through pressurization the first time. Yeah. It didn't matter what you were thinking; you were wrong. But you're first to go on this one, and the question of the question here is: when was the first printed use of the phrase India Pale Ale? When did India Pale Ale
the
first appear
printed
in
use?
print? Yes.
Oh dear.
India Pale Ale.
Dear. 1620.
1620 says Steph. Dan, what year do you think that was?
That's probably roundabout towards the right era.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
No, I'm trying to go back through my history, and
No. Do they teach you this in high school?
no.
College?
I mean, you went to the same high school. I did. So, but yeah, college. no.
Well, you probably went more often than I did.
I'm gonna go with 1680.
1680 says Dan. And Brian, what's your guess?
I'm gonna go later.
Okay.
I'm thinking mid-late 19th century. So let me dither while I think about a year for a minute. I'm gonna go 1850.
1850. Well, that's a good strategy because you are the closest.
Wow.
The year was actually
Bravo.
1829.
Wow.
1829 was the first time the phrase India Pale Ale appeared in print. Anybody have a guess what country it was in?
Britain?
Yeah, I'm gonna go England.
You would think.
America.
No, it was Australia.
Really?
It was
Wow.
Australia. Yeah, surprisingly, it comes from Australia. It was an advertisement in the Sydney Gazette and New South Wales Advertiser, which is a mouthful of a publication.
You know what? That advertisement, I believe, is actually in Mitch Steele's book.
Is it really?
I believe
you
I've
know what?
actually
It was
seen that.
actually it was fairly recently discovered because they had actually had a different publication listed as having been the first, and it was a few decades later, and it was actually because of archives being available on the internet for people to sort of pore over that they discovered this earlier publication, which referenced it on August 29th, 1829. It contained a list of products that were on sale at the stores of A.B. Spark. Things like clothing, turpentine, and books. Several beverages listed, including Taylor and East India Pale Ale, which is the first time it was referred to as India Pale Ale. So there you go. That was that. Moving right along, and Dan's up to bat first on this one.
Yay.
When was the first recorded drinking game?
First
The
recorded
drinking game.
I want to say it's a relatively new phenomenon, but I'm probably wrong. I will go with. I'll go somewhere in the 1900s. I'm gonna
Okay.
go 1940.
1940
I'm
says
probably
Dan.
so unbelievably wrong.
Yeah.
Brian, what do you think? The first recorded drinking game,
Plato Symposium, which
Really?
yes,
Oh.
which was what year?
I have no clue when it was finally recorded, but it's ancient Greece. So we're looking at like, hang on, 400 BC.
400 BC, you say? Okay, Steph, what do you think?
I have quite the range.
You
here.
really
You really
just
do.
split the difference.
Somewhere between 400 BC. I will give you a hint.
Dan is wrong.
Dan is really wrong.
It is somewhere in between those 2 years.
I will go with
0.
I was also thinking ancient because
Right.
I mean, drinking's been around forever.
Right.
I'll say 200 BC.
You'll say 200 BC. Well, you know what? Brian is not only the closest because it was 385 BC, but he gets an extra
Because he knew what it was called.
bonus points because it was, in fact, from Plato's Symposium. Now, it was ancient Greece, so it was wine and not beer,
Yeah.
but, whatever.
But it was still the first
You
record
said
of a
drinking
It
drinking
was
game.
first
Yeah.
record of the drinking. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, this isn't a beer thing, but it's still interesting because it's
Should we
drinking.
just put up the white flag
Might
now?
as well, yeah.
It was the Symposium, which is a text that explores the nature of love by recounting the escapades of a group of men in an ancient Greek version of a kegger, a symposium, which tended to be slightly more intellectual affairs than they are today, being Greek and all. Records the first ever drinking game called. Do you know what it was called?
I don't remember the name of the game, but a lot of it had to do with like flicking the
King's Cup.
fleas, like the legs, into this cup.
Right. It was called Kotabos.
Okay.
Kotabos, Kotabos. And yeah, players swirled the dregs of their wine around in a keelix, which was a platter-like stemmed drinking vessel, and then flung them at a target. So actually, I'm going to give you an even 5 points because you had a lot of information on that one that was absolutely correct. So you're probably going to win.
I wonder. Who's gonna win.
Wow.
But let's see if you can keep it up because you're the next to go on this question. Similar question. When was the invention of beer pong, another drinking game?
Oh, Lord.
When was beer pong invented? It was,
1797.
it wasn't ancient Greece, I'll tell you. 1797. Steph, when do you think beer pong was
I
invented?
think it was later than that.
Okay. Then pick a year later.
1870.
1870.
I think I already said that year. I don't know.
Actually, 2230. It hasn't been invented. Yeah, Dan, when do you think beer pong was invented?
I will go in the 1800s as well,
Okay.
and I will go with 1820.
You will go with 1820. You're all pretty far off, but Steph is the closest.
Yeah, finally
It
got
was
a
on
point.
actually in the 1950s. I don't have an
Wow.
exact year. And actually, depending on who you ask, this is a surprisingly loaded question. According to Wikipedia, which we all know is the gold standard for internet research that doesn't matter,
Amen.
it was invented at Dartmouth College in the 1950s or 60s, but we'll say 50s just because. And it involved paddles. It actually was closer to
Ping pong.
ping pong, yeah.
That part I knew from Beer Fest.
Oh,
involved
hence
paddles.
why it's called pong.
Yes, beer pong. Well, you play it on a ping pong table too. I mean, even
Yeah.
if you're not using paddles.
True.
It was see, now you made me lose my place. Sometime around the 1980s, the modern version evolved and was dubbed beer pong or throw pong, or it's even called Beirut, or maybe those are all different games. It really depends who you ask. But there's a World Series of beer pong, and has been since 2006.
Wow.
World Series of beer pong. Yeah. So there's a World Series for everything, I guess. And our final question. Steph goes first on this
Wait,
one.
you can say World Series, right?
You could say World Series of beer pong. I
We
mean,
don't
if
have to call it the big game.
World Series of beer pong is not trademarked yet.
What's up? They do have a logo. You know the logos like with the red, white, and blue, and the silhouette of they have
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of somebody throwing a beer pong.
Wow.
thing. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I feel like I've seen that. I used to
Yeah.
work at Spencer's, and we had a lot of stuff there.
Oh,
for that,
okay, yeah. But no, it's an official organization. They have a website and everything. They have tournaments. It's a pretty big deal. Our final question. Steph goes first on this one. When was the opening of the Guinness Brewery? What year
Oh,
did the Guinness
dear.
Brewery open?
We're talking the
Guinness
St.
Brewery.
James Gate location.
We are.
Oh, crap.
I have a feeling Brian's going to get some more bonus points on this one.
I'm gonna say 1640.
1640, says Steph. Dan, what year do you think it was?
Okay, so I know you were saying about a different location, so I know the year that's printed on the cans and
Okay.
the bottles, but I'm guessing that's wrong if there's a different location involved.
Well, do you
So-
trust the bottles?
I do, but I don't know if that's from the original recipe
But don't you think
or if
they'd be
that's...
proud
Well,
of the original
When the
date?
brewery began.
But if it's a different location, see, now I'm in my own head. So the year I'm pretty sure that it is on the bottles is 1759. So
Okay.
I'm going to go with that.
Okay, you're going to go with that.
I'm probably wrong because I've got a terrible memory
You're
anyway.
really overthinking this. And your guess, Brian?
No, he's right. It's whatever they have on their can. It's the St. James Gate location, and it's 1750 something. So he said, what did he say? 58.
he said
59.
59.
59. I'll go 58.
Okay, you'll go 58.
And yeah, like it's allegedly been there ever since, but it no longer produces beer there.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
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 So
All right.
that's
Well,
the question.
actually, Dan was exactly correct. It
Yeah.
was 1759.
Yay, Dan.
Yeah.
So Dan's going to get
Alright.
2 points.
Dan
Yay.
drinks a lot of Guinness.
But you know what? Just because I'm feeling charitable, Brian gets a bonus point for knowing the name of the St. James location.
Seems fair.
Also, fun fact: they did not employ Catholics in management until the 1970s.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That
you
is
could-
not listed in my fun facts.
So like the history of Ireland, there's Catholic Protestant
Right.
tensions. Jameson's is the Catholic whiskey, which won the kind of culture battles, and that Jameson is kind of the gold standard for Irish
Right,
whiskey.
right.
Guinness is actually the Protestant stout.
Oh, okay.
But they won the culture battles. Murphy's is the Catholic stout.
Oh,
like
okay.
each denomination had their own stout and their own whiskey. Bushmills is the Protestant whiskey.
Right.
So
Huh. Well, I did not know any
Wayne,
of that.
I think
Very-
you found your fun fact match.
Yeah, anyway.
Just saying.
Fun fact. All very fun and interesting facts. Yes, on December 31st, 1759, Arthur Guinness signed a lease for the St. James Gate Brewery. The terms of the lease, anybody have any ideas? There's actually a really interesting and sort of ridiculous. The terms, 9,000 years.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
It's
9,000 years
ridiculous thing
for 45 pounds a year. 45 pounds a year for 9,000 years. That is, of course, presuming that beer, money, and civilization existed for that entire term, I assume. But it's now a moot point because Guinness & Company has since bought out the property, rendering that lease redundant. So they actually own it now. They no longer lease it. But yeah, 9,000 years, 45 pounds a year. If only I could get that in my rent. That'd be nice. So that's the last question we have today. I think we know who the winner's probably going to be.
Sure, yeah.
Good job, Brian.
But we're gonna we're gonna add up the scores anyway.
3-7-1, right?
We're gonna start. We're
Or
actually
3-8-1?
we're gonna start from the bottom
Oh, come on.
with one single solitary point,
Better than a goose egg.
which that point was earned on the invention of beer pong, which is not the question I would have thought that you would have gotten
Yeah,
correct.
I should have had the Oktoberfest one. That's embarrassing.
I thought that
That's
was what you were gonna
embarrassing.
get. Actually, I was surprised. Everybody was pretty far off on that one.
Yeah.
I believe me. Before I looked this up, I would have had no idea.
You know what's funny? I think I actually have the 200-year anniversary mug upstairs somewhere too. So
right.
it's
So
even more
had it been
embarrassing.
1512, like you said, you would have had to have bought that mug in the 18th century,
That was
which
even
I don't
before
think
the
you did.
Reinheitsgebot. Yeah,
Yeah, I
know
don't
what
think
I'm
you bought that.
thinking.
I don't think you have a time
I'm
machine.
terrible at this trivia
That's
stuff.
okay.
I am so bad at these games.
Dan's
Too
in
much
the middle
Too much pressure.
with
And the winner is
3 points, and the winner with 8 points. And you know what? He would have won even without the bonus points.
Okay. keep-
Yeah, that's
just
true.
Salt in
Just-
the wound.
Just for
saying.
so nobody complains too much. Yeah. Brian with 8 points is our big winner on our second edition of Years of Beers. Also, I'm going to give him another 10 bonus points for reading my Latin introduction properly.
Should have been
So you
declared winner
officially-
right off the bat.
You officially have 18 points.
All right.
Well, thank you everybody for playing. And,
Yeah, that was awesome.
you guys will do better next time.
Hopefully. I do want to say the first time we played that was when we had the Evil Genius guys on, and they were really cool. I want to give them a shout out. I was just at their second birthday party at a place called McGillen's Old Ale House in Philly, and I finally got to try that chocolate porter pumpkin
the
they were
chocolate
telling us
pumpkin
about.
pudding. Ah,
It
yes.
was so good. They're looking to come back on the show at some point. They said they'll bring some with.
Yay.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah.
cool.
It was so much fun. Those guys are so cool. But now I know we want to keep this train going. So next up, Steph, we have Know Your Beer, correct?
Yep. No.
Your beer.
No. Know your beers. So this episode's edition of Know Your Beers, I'm going to be sharing the gig with Brian because clearly he knows a crap load about beers. And of course, we're going
And
to
their
talk
history.
about, that's right, we're going to talk about his style, Belgian beers. So let me set it up here by just saying, as we all know, beer history in Belgium begins at the age of the First Crusades, long before Belgium even became an independent country. Local French and Flemish abbeys brewed and distributed beers as a fundraising method, making relatively low alcohol beers, which was preferred as a sanitary option to available drinking water. Brewing continued under abbey supervision over the next 7 centuries, and the Trappist monasteries in Belgium today began brewing in the late 18th century, primarily by monks fleeing the French Revolution. That beer was exclusively for the monks, and it was described as dark and sweet. So I want to focus on talking about the styles that, Brian, you brought with today. I know that you brought with a Belgian double. And a Belgian double, the first thing that jumps out at me when I have one is the aroma, that rich malty sweetness. Sometimes they have like hints of chocolate or caramel in them or toastiness, and lots of fruity esters like raisins and plums and dried cherries. And they always have that dark amber to copper color, maybe a little reddish, and they're generally clear with a very large, dense, and long-lasting creamy white head. The flavor is usually malty and sweet, but finishes very dry, which is what I appreciate about them. And those raisin and dried fruit flavors typically come through. Overall, it's a deep reddish, moderately strong, multi-complex Belgian ale, which originated at monasteries in the Middle Ages and was revived in the mid-1800s. Some commercial examples would be La Trappe Double, the I can't pronounce half of these.
Yeah, let's go to Brian.
He
Yeah.
The
speaks
West
Latin.
Small Double, Chimay, the Red Chimay, of course, Allagash Double, Lost and Found Abbey Ale, Stouts Abbey Double Ale, Russian River Benediction, Flying Fish Double. Any others you can think of? Other commercial examples of doubles?
Omagong does one as well. I don't know if that made the list. It's a decent one.
It's a decent one.
decent.
Not as good as yours.
No.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask? I think I know that, but the double and triple come from the words double and triple, like
Yeah,
2 and
it's
3.
a double in Flemish and triple in
Right,
Flemish.
right, but that's what they mean.
And it all goes back to an old archaic method of measuring the alcohol, where like the single would be like the weakest beer they made, and the double like it's kind of based off
stronger
Plateau,
than that.
and it was like that. And then
Right.
then the triple was one. It has
But quad was actually done commercially in the 1900s. They came up with it just to separate it from the triple, so it really doesn't
because
follow that.
quads are like Belgian dark strong ales.
Yeah.
The style guidelines, if you look at them, like commercially, are just insane. That you can brew anything and it will fit into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So originally the double and triple were references to the amount of alcohol, but now it's sort of expanded to more nuances
to
of
the style,
styles.
to the amount of alcohol. But the triple is actually, and Steph, when she reads the guidelines, will get into this. It's like paler, and also very, very dry.
Right.
More of a deep yellow golden color. So what's interesting about Belgian ales is the way that they carbonate. Most Belgian beers are carbonated traditionally or bottle conditioned, and that's allowing the yeast to produce that CO2 naturally. And typically it's thought of that traditional carbonation will create a thicker foam head and smaller bubbles. So a lot of people maybe appreciate more a bottle conditioned beer as opposed to a forced carbonated beer. So, and I know that you brought 2 examples here. I think you're going to try to school
We're going to
me.
have a little tasting challenge for Steph.
I have here 2 homebrewed Belgian doubles, one of which is bottle conditioned. The other is force carved. Now, there are some differences in the recipes.
But he won't tell you what those differences are or which one.
One of them
solely based on carbonation
includes a lot more biscuit malt because I wanted to get some bready notes into it. The other contains a little bit more crystal malts, but I won't tell you which one is force carved and which one is bottle conditioned. I will tell you that about it. So if you taste different things, that is actually part of the master plan.
I'm watching as you're pouring.
This is revenge.
This
This is the spirit of Colin.
I hope Colin is listening
Coming
to this
back.
right now.
Oh, I should also mention that I am part of the Berks County Homebrew Club, which is how I know Steph. How many?
Oh
of
yeah,
these
we
should I
didn't
pour?
talk about that
Yeah.
on the. You can pour as many as you want. I just keep
Okay.
throwing glasses at him.
I'm gonna get one more, and that's gonna.
So
be
one
now.
of the people in our guest audience can possibly have one.
That'll be mine. Okay.
Okay, so this is the first.
Yeah, and I actually am gonna steal a sip off of the one that goes to the guest audience.
I got it. Thank you.
Actually,
Oh, sorry, I bumped the
Bump
microphone.
the microphone.
You're getting good at that.
Yeah.
I am.
Ooh, I love the smell of this.
Yeah.
they're both about the same age. One is a little younger. So.
I see why you like Belgian so much.
Wow. I'm going to venture a guess and say this is the bottle conditioned one. I'm just
Oh,
going to
you
put that
can't
out
guess
there.
yet. We haven't had the other
I
one.
know,
yet.
but I'm just going to say.
I'd be curious to hear your explanation as to why.
Believe me.
You're all right there.
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry. Almost died.
All right, I'm ready for the other one.
Okay.
I won't lie. I don't even want to venture a guess because I'm judging off the trivia segment. I'm going to be so unbelievably wrong.
Well, I probably am too, and I don't have any, particularly good reason for making that guess.
Just
Now
a shot in the dark.
They're both, I believe, around 7% ABV. The thing about Belgian yeasts is if you really take care of them, they are incredibly attenuative. This triple that I have that's incredibly young, it's really only been in bottle about 5 days. But if we want to, I'm happy to crack it open and see where it's at. The attenuation got down to 90-some-odd%.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Which means 91% of the available sugar was digested by the yeast.
Okay. Yeah, I was just about to ask.
Belgian yeasts are just machines at this thing. And if you treat them properly, you'll get a lot of really interesting flavors from them. They can just go to town on some sugar.
That is what they do best.
Yeah. Eat and reproduce.
That's about it, yes. Unfortunately, part of that eating means...
tasty, tasty alcohol.
Yes, exactly.
They're both really tasty, Brian.
They are
I have
really
to
good.
agree.
They
They
are
really
really
good.
good.
They have a nice sweetness to them.
You
Ooh,
get
I
the
like this one.
sweetness. It finishes dry. It's exactly what I described. It's like it's to the T.
A little bit of spice. I'm
Yeah,
getting
so
to
that's yeast.
Yeah.
This yeast, I used what's the Westmalle yeast that's available to homebrewers. It's Y yeasts. 3787. And if any of this is trademarked, edit me saying trademark. Trademark. Okay, we've got like 4 different ones you can just kind of cut back in.
Audio clips.
Yeah, exactly. Trademark, one more, just for good measure. But yeah, and it's derived from the Westmalle strand, which is one of the Trappist breweries that Steph had mentioned earlier. They do a double, and their triple is kind of the gold standard for triples that are commercially available.
Now, these strands of yeast that persist for decades and centuries, how are they kept? I mean, is there like a like I know you just from brewer to brewer to brewer and stuff, but are there people that especially now, like in the modern age, I mean, they have labs where they store, and then but in the past,
they didn't really know.
They didn't really know.
What they did know is that if they harvested some, because if you've ever watched beer fermenting, it gets this big head, and there's krausen and there's yeast cells in that. They would just start scooping some of that off.
Oh, okay.
And then
reuse it.
Reuse it.
So a little bit would always carry over to the next.
Now, what's fascinating about this is I'm not sure what generation, but it's like generation 7 or 8. Most yeast become multi-cell organisms. They're only supposed to be single-celled organisms.
I did not
So
know
yeah,
that.
at around like the 7th or the 8th repitching, you're getting a lot more than you bargained for.
Right.
So that's why now that science has come into it, most places only reuse their yeast like commercially 4 or 5 times.
Right.
But some of them go through a step
Now,
up.
now, does that transition to multicellular, is that inevitable in generations of yeast? Or is that
if you just
part of the
let
process
them,
of using them for fermentation?
It's part of it. But
For fermentation.
how many of you had here?
That's just how he talks.
Yeah.
I think it's just part of like them being wild organisms. You can
that
only
would just
contain them
always
so
happen.
often, and it will just eventually happen.
Right.
And I'm sure each yeast strain would have a different generation that it like clicks over to multi-cell.
Right.
So
That's really interesting. I never knew that.
Thoughts on
All right,
which one
so
is
this is driving me crazy, so I'm just going to go with my gut, because the more I sit here and stare at the bottles and think about the head retention and look at the bubbles, and I'm going to go with my gut and say the first one was bottle conditioned.
I don't know. You know what? I wasn't going to guess here, but since I ventured to guess earlier, now that I've had this one, and I'm basing this entirely on the carbonation, and I said the first one was bottle conditioned because it had that finer, smaller bubbles. But now that I've had this one, I think the carbonation on the first one felt like it had a little more bite, and I don't know if that means I was wrong. But I think for the sake of safety, I'm just going to agree with Steph.
I don't know. I'm not doing very well today.
Anyway.
It's not my day.
So since you're all eagerly looking at me, I'm going to go the opposite of Steph, just to be on the safe side.
okay.
Oh.
No, just to throw some diversity in there.
So this one was the second one.
Right.
That was actually the forced carbonated one. So
The second one.
Steph and Dan were correct.
Right.
Or Stephen
That's
Wayne.
Stephen Wayne, sorry. Damn it, I did it again. All right.
We knew that was going to happen once.
I was going to ignore it and just hope nobody noticed. But no, I actually was going to change my guess after I had this one, but I didn't because I wanted to agree with Steph.
I chose the first one because I liked the mouthfeel of the
Yeah.
first one better, and of course, and it had the nice head, and I'm like, oh, this is definitely the bottle condition. But then I was watching you pour the second one, I'm like, crap, that has a good head too.
Yeah, the second
And then
one.
I was like second guessing myself.
The
but
carbonation on the second one felt creamier and smoothier, fluffier almost, and I think the first one felt a little, like I said, it had a little more bite to
Yeah,
it.
I intentionally held back this part of the bottle because that would have been a dead giveaway.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
wow,
When
yeah.
you get down to the bottom there.
very cool.
Wow.
For those of you who can't see what's going on, I just poured like the last inch of
Right.
the bottle condition one, which had a lot of yeast sitting
All
there.
our homebrew friends will understand and appreciate that. So the other bottle that Brian brought with is a triple. Now, albeit a very young triple, I'm sure it's still delicious. And the aroma of a triple is usually spicy and fruity, reminiscent of more citrus fruits like oranges, and a spicy floral, sometimes perfumey hop character is usually found. Now, like Brian said, it's more of a deep yellow to golden color instead of the darker color of the double, and there's good clarity, very effervescent, long-lasting, creamy, rocky white head, and the flavor is usually spicy and fruity, again with oranges and lemons, and the alcohol flavors are supported by a soft malt character. Bitterness is typically medium to high. Overall, it strongly resembles a strong golden ale, but slightly darker and somewhat fuller bodied. It usually has a more rounded malt flavor, but should not be sweet. They're usually high in alcohol, but they don't usually taste strongly alcohol. strong.
They don't taste strong alcohol.
They do not taste strongly of alcohol. The best of them are sneaky about it, not obvious.
Very, very sneaky.
Yes.
So, of course, Westmalle makes a triple. We have St. Bernard is triple. Chimay, the white bottle, is the triple. A bunch I can't pronounce. La Trappe's triple. La Fin du Monde.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a very good one.
That was
By
yeah.
Unibrow. And
Dan
I
did
had,
a
and
blog
again,
post about that one.
I had that on the day the world was supposed to end. So that was pretty cool. Oh, Allagash makes a great triple reserve. And, of course, Victory's Golden Monkey.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was a
that is a triple.
Great.
Speaking of which, with Golden Monkey, just as a side note, I've been told by somebody at Victory that White Monkey will be coming back.
Oh, you know,
That
I
was
never
great.
got to try it.
That's
I know
right.
you
That
guys
was
both
before
did.
you came
Oh,
on.
was that
yeah.
episode 1?
That
That was
yeah.
the episode before I was here.
And this is 11.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah. Look at how far we've come.
Yes.
This one goes to 11.
Which is the name of a beer, which we
It
learned in a
is,
previous
yeah.
game.
Really?
Libation or fabrication. Yes, this one goes to 11 ale is by Bell's Brewery.
You can tell it's young, but it has a nice
Yes.
flavor
It has a
profile.
syrupy,
does,
syrupy
yeah.
sort of smell to it, like a maple syrup.
And that will dissipate a
Yeah,
little bit as
that'll-
carbonation kind of kicks in
Even out.
and you get more of a carbonic bite. in the
I'd
nose.
love for you to come back and bring this again when it's
Sure.
sat for a while.
Actually, it is one of the 12 beers of Christmas. You're getting a preview here.
Ooh.
That a homebrewing friend, Dave Stewart, who also works at Alvernia, and I have been collaborating, honestly, most this year on this project. We did not necessarily realize what we were signing up for when we decided, hey, we're going to brew 12 beers and give out the gift pack of the 12 beers of Christmas.
wow.
A lot of beers to brew.
Yeah, we brewed 7 of them. 5 of them are in bottles, and
Oh my
mercifully, the
gosh.
last 5 are all kind of ones that are meant to be drunk younger.
Right, so,
It's going to work out, but it also means in the next 2 months we got a lot of brewing to do.
Yeah, that is a lot. That is a
Wow.
lot. Yeah,
That's
especially
an
for
awesome
for
project,
home brewing.
though.
Yeah, without
Yeah.
having the.
Can you imagine having
commercial
those
equipment.
advent calendars? Like a
Yeah, and you open one and there's a bottle of beer
beer
behind each
advent
one.
calendar?
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
a great idea.
Beer event calendar.
Great idea.
So I think on that note, I think we've been beer educated.
We have.
enough.
I do
We
have
have.
Thank
one
you, Brian.
You're welcome.
question.
Yes.
This last one.
The triple, yeah.
Was this bottle conditioned or is this?
It is
forced?
bottle
Okay,
conditioned.
okay.
And it is, that's
I don't know if
why.
you mentioned that. I think you probably did.
Yeah, if I were to get you a bottle of this in even another 2 weeks, you'd notice a big difference.
Right.
At that point, the carbonation would be there. Some of the flavors would still be gelling.
Right, right.
But it would at least have the carbonation. And we actually carbonated this one fairly high. We went with 3 1/4 or 3.5 units of carbonation. I can't remember which. We went almost wheat beer level on it.
Right.
Because that's like a real traditional triple has that effervescent
Right.
carbonation to it.
Right.
So.
Awesome.
Cool. So yeah, now that we have been beer educated and even sampled some Belgians, let's get into the rest of the tasting.
Beer me! Beer me! Beer me! Beer me!
As Steph hits the mic stand again.
I'm trying to reach for the bottle opener. We need to pass it to our official
I
bottle
see why-
opener for the
I
tasting
see why you
segment.
prefer the desktop stand as opposed to the traditional
Yes.
standing stand.
You
The
have
boom
that
stand,
awesome
yeah.
desktop one, and now you keep giving me this thing, and I keep
It's
bumping
because the
into
other
it.
one-
Well, to be fair, the logistics of this episode got a little complicated when we decided to have Brian open beers. And
Yeah,
then
that's
I
true.
open
Now,
beers
now
at the
there's
tasting
now
segment.
there's beers going up
beers
on both
which
ends of the table.
which, by the way, Steph just put right on top of my Kindle. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
no.
I didn't realize
no.
that's what that was.
I mean, it is just about as useful as a coaster.
Hey,
So,
I cannot look at the internet on a coaster while I'm on the toilet.
that is true.
Okay, so
On that note, Steph, what's up first?
let's move on.
And now we've gone off the rails.
That tends to happen. after
Oh
we've
yeah,
been
no,
drinking.
I've
When we
listened to
actually-
your podcast before you go off the rails for a bit.
When we crack open the beers.
So the first 2 beers we're actually going to sample together. These are 2 X ales.
As in with each other, or
Yes.
That's what I thought you meant at first too. So yeah, like with like as
you're not going
as
to leave the
communal-
room
Yeah.
and go sample it.
It's not like a blind tasting or anything.
All right.
Pretty Little Things Beer and Ale Project has this series of Once Upon a Time where they dig into history and rebrew these beers from the past. We have X Ale 1838 and X Ale 1945 here, and these are 2 versions of the same X or mild ale brewed by the same London brewery 107 years apart. These beers are part of their Once Upon a Time project. The brewery worked with Amsterdam-based beer historian Ron Pattinson to recreate the right brewing conditions as faithfully as possible in order to turn out these X ales. The mild was a hugely popular style for more than a century, from 1800 through the 1900s. Pretty Things Beer and Ale Project released 2 mild ales side by side, 2 beers from opposite ends of that period. brewed by the same brewery. If you drink both, you will drink the same brand from the same brewery, separated by 107 years. Over those years, mild changed considerably.
Over those years of beers.
Yes, over those years of beer. Something these beers simply demonstrate. Through bearing the same name, X Ale, in character, they could hardly be more dissimilar. In the 1830s, there was the beginning of a boom in the mild ale brewing, which in 30 years became England's favorite beer. This beer, the first one, the 1838 X Ale, is a typical London mild of the era. It's bigger and more robustly hopped than modern versions. Brewed from 100% pale malt and Kent hops, this is a straightforward, uncomplicated beer, much like the working classes who first drank it. The color is also much paler than you might expect. From this original form, mild was to undergo many transformations, culminating in the second beer in the series, 1945. Drinking them side by side will show how this beer style evolved. Again, these beers were brewed and sold as the same beer, but they weren't the same beer at all. These beers are fantastically different. There's no way you would think they are connected by the same brewery, brand name, or style. The 1838 Mild X Ale is a 7.4% golden ale and is very hoppy, almost like an IPA. While the 1945 Mild X Ale is a 2.8% beer, and it's more of a mild as we know it. Dark, weak, and grainy, like a mild brown. So I think just looking at the two beers, you
Absolutely,
can
you can
clearly
totally
see which is which.
If I didn't know these were the same recipe, same kind of, whatever you want to call it, I wouldn't have known at all just looking at them. Because one is, you're right, one is pale, one looks more like a brown ale.
Yeah.
Well, and what's funny is from a commercial brewer standpoint, like you can take something like this and do party gal brewing, which is like you make a bigger one, like a barley wine or a quad, which actually the homebrewing friend and I just did. We did a quad, and then with the runnings, we made a mild because it fits.
Right.
And these are two incredibly different beers.
They really are, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see the difference just in the color. And I've tasted the first, but not the second.
The second one, you're going to like the taste of. I know you will, just knowing you. I mean, it's... To
well,
me,
actually, that's the first.
right,
That's,
the pale
This
one's
is
the first one, right?
That's
right.
the
This
1838.
is a spicy, sort of bitey,
Yeah, it's got some really nice
sort of sharp.
bite,
It's nice.
sharp,
Yeah.
spicy, almost.
But I
It's
think
not quite grassy, but you get some like
a
of
little-
the,
yeah.
the
you do get
hop
a, like
character.
an earthiness, yeah.
Earthy, even a little citrusy in the back.
Yeah. Now I can tell just from the color that, Dan, I think you're correct. I'm going to like the second one better.
I honestly, out of the
I
second one, I
love
get
this
like a
one.
coffee kind of flavor
Yes.
out of
Yeah,
it. And
it's got some real nice light toast.
yeah, it does.
It's very much
Oh.
like a mild brown ale. That's a perfect explanation. I'm in love with this.
Oh, that is
Steve
really
would
good.
love this beer.
They
Our home brew
definitely improved it over that 100 and 107 years.
yes,
Well,
good math.
I don't know. You can't really compare them because they're very. It's not like
They're
they
very
took this
different.
one and it evolved. Well, did it evolve?
Well,
it's
I
just.
mean,
I love this.
I would,
though.
You know
I
what
would love
happened?
to read the
The
history of it.
1945.
the first one was a
is definitely my favorite.
single-celled organism, and then
Well, honestly, I suspect what probably happened in the intervening years was the war and the availability of resources to
Right.
make beer.
I was just going to say,
Yes.
being 1945, and honestly, not only is 1945 a more interesting beer, it's also a more interesting year
Yeah.
in history.
And people's taste changed.
Yeah.
They're the big brewers are gonna brew the beers that people
Yeah.
want to drink.
Yeah, the second one really
I
has.
want to drink
Yeah.
the second, and it's only 2.8%.
That's what gets
Is
me.
it really?
Yeah,
It's
that's
Yeah.
that's what
Wow.
I'm saying, yeah.
And that's like
Now
to
that
brew,
is a session beer, Dan.
Yeah, you could
Hey.
drink this. Yeah, you could drink
And
this
it
all
feels
day.
like a
Not
2%
Wood
beer.
Stout.
I know it doesn't feel like a 13% beer.
You're never going to live that one down.
No,
man.
I'm not.
you're not.
There's
You're
a
not.
lot of things I will not live down with.
There's
two
a
of these
nice
people.
dark sweetness to this. Yeah,
love this.
really like the
It's
second
so
one.
good.
The first one's good, but the second one,
Yeah.
wow.
To brew one of these, you have to know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because you cannot F up any part of this process.
Right.
To make
Right.
something that's only 2.5 or 3%
Delicate
ABV.
balance, yeah.
Yeah, everything has to be balanced.
Now, Steph, you're going to kill me for what I'm about to do, but I'm curious.
Oh no, Dan is mixing them
I'm
both
mixing
together.
the two of them.
Oh no,
He's
what is
making
going
a-
to happen?
You're
I'm
going to make an
surprised.
American brown ale. is
I'm
what's
surprised
gonna
a
happen.
black hole
Probably.
didn't just open up here on the table.
Well, it's like a black and tan,
I guess
Yeah.
so.
a brown and gold.
It's probably going to be pretty similar. My guess would be to like an American brown ale where you get some light toast and a lot of hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it is. I still taste the flavor of the 1945, but it kind of has the consistency of the
The first
1838.
one. Well, and
The
the flavor
mouthfeel.
the flavor of the 45 is definitely bolder. So that's
It is,
obviously
yeah.
gonna
So
come
it's going
through.
to take the forefront.
Yeah, Yeah,
It just goes to show you that a bolder beer is not necessarily a stronger beer.
exactly.
Correct.
Yeah, that's true.
And a darker beer is not necessarily a stronger beer. This is a great example of that.
What's the ABV on the 1838?
7.4.
Wow, that's quite a
7
difference.
down to 2
And-
in the
yeah,
span of
honestly, I
107
mean, if
years.
you put these both in front of me and didn't tell me that, I would have guessed that the 45 was the stronger.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, same here.
I would have. There's a little bit of. There's something in this that makes me think it's more alcoholic.
Yeah, it's a
than
little-
1945. But I wouldn't necessarily know that it's 7. It hides it pretty well.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Yeah,
guess
I
that
was-
big
I
of a
was
difference,
surprised
but
with
you can tell
7,
it's
yeah.
higher. So Dan, are you ready for
I'm
it?
ready. I was born ready for this.
Oh, here we go. That's right.
So we did a news story on this a few episodes ago, but we officially have here in the Beer Busters quote-unquote studio our Trooper Ale as Wayne tries to pour it without opening the bottle.
Why isn't it coming out? Oh, Lord.
I told a friend of mine I work with at a radio station that I work for that we were trying this, and he was very excited for me. He is officially the most metal person that I know. So I have to let him know that we officially did this, and it's recorded, and it's on the interwebs for the rest of
Interwebs.
my life to haunt me.
Yeah.
So Trooper.
Trooper with a subtle hint of lemon.
Oh, you remember that. Created by Iron Maiden and brewed by Robinson's Brewery, which you can find at Robbie's Brewery on Twitter. 4.7% premium British ale, or ESB. The malt flavors and citric notes from a unique blend of Bobek Goldens and Cascade hops dominate this deep golden ale with a subtle hint of lemon. A subtle hint of lemon.
Subtle hint of lemon and death.
That doesn't sound very metal.
No. That's, yep.
Trooper.
Do you want lemon?
Jesus.
Just a subtle hint. Trooper takes its name from the Iron Maiden song, which is inspired by the famous Charge of the Brigade. It took place at the Battle of
Lemons.
Lemons in 1854.
Sorry.
When 600 British cavalry courageously charged the massed
900
Russian
lines.
artillery, the assault resulted in a massive loss of light and
Lemons.
came about due to a misunderstanding of an order given by the commanding officer.
I guess.
Real ale fan and history aficionado Bruce Dickinson, Maiden's vocalist, played a major role in developing the unique flavor of this beer, entailing ongoing visits to Robinson's Brewery in Stockport. Combining an impressive heritage stretching from 1838 with innovation, Robinson's is one of the UK's largest family breweries with 340 pubs across Northwest Wales.
Lemon.
The Northwest and Wales. North and West Wales? I don't. Lemon.
Well done. Well done. I'm surprised you could make it through that with all the faces he was throwing you.
So, Dan, I think you should take us through the tasting of this one.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
this is
revenge.
gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going through the smell of it. I don't smell lemon off the bat, but now let's
Really?
see.
I get a
when
little
I drink
bit.
it, I get it.
I get a little bit.
lemon.
There's a very subtle hint of lemon. Actually, it's what was the ABV on this? 4 something?
4.7.
4.7. 4.7.
4.7, yeah.
It's kind of where we were at with the other one. It doesn't feel like a 4.7. It feels lighter than that. I can see this being on par with that 2.7 that we just had. But
It does feel pretty light, yeah.
Yeah, the subtle hint of lemon is
I'm
there.
just surprised that Iron Maiden would make an ESB.
Subtle hint of lemon.
Well, it drinks more like a blonde ale.
It is a bit, yeah.
I mean, it's got the color
right,
of a
yeah.
blonde ale, and it
does,
drinks.
yeah.
It's got like kind of the mouthfeel of a blonde ale.
And it has
If
the
I just had
subtle
to
hint
guess-
of lemon.
If I had to guess style, I would guess this is blonde ale. I would not guess that this is technically an ESB.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have any of the hop character that you'd expect from
Yeah, there's
an
really,
ESB.
there's really not a lot of hoppiness that comes out of it.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
if it's a traditional ESB, there wouldn't necessarily be a lot of hop
right.
character. There'd be more caramel malts. I brew a lot of British besides Belgian, so
Okay.
that's
Okay.
where
You know,
a lot of this
honestly,
knowledge comes from.
the
But-
only ESB I've had is the Red Hook.
Oh,
ESB
yeah.
that
Oh,
you
that's
talked
that's
about.
honestly not the best version.
You know,
if you
and
can
I
get,
was gonna say I wasn't a big fan. I know Dan
Really,
likes
I
it.
liked it. I mean, they brownie points out of me. I was at the brewery when I went to Seattle in May, and it was a great location. I just had so much fun there, and I had most of the beers they had on tap, and they were just so good.
to tie it into the Troopers theme, Troopers Thorns sometimes get Fuller's ESB, and that's
Really?
a really good like traditional ESB. So,
So
but
what
yeah,
do we-
this
I
It's,
have
it's
to-
fine.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's good. It's not. I'm not floored by this
No.
is incredible, but it's pretty good.
I like the mild better, the 1838.
Yeah,
Or the
I-
1940. Which was the darker one?
darker
The
one.
1945. The 45.
Oh, I mean, these are just
This was
this is more
fine. I mean,
complex.
it's like a basic beer.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
some things that.
But you're right. It's
come
not what
out
I
at you,
expect
but-
coming out of Iron Maiden.
well,
Not what I expect out of them.
I
at
mean,
all.
as soon as you hit subtle hint of lemon, you're really
Yeah.
Iron Maiden.
But it does make it fun to talk about.
It does.
That's true. It does. Yeah.
The build-up led me to expect more.
Yeah, you know what? You're kind of right. I
Yeah.
think I overhyped it. It's like when I
Yeah.
saw the movie Superbad. I overhyped that so much.
No,
It's just I expected more out of it. Not to say I didn't like Superbad for any of the super fans out there.
It's really
Super
not
fans.
bad, but if you pitch this to me as an ESB, I'm going to look at you like you got 3 heads.
You're right. It
We'll
was
call
more of
it
a blonde ale.
a premium British beer.
There we go.
And there you go. And
Well,
then
you
I'd
know
be like,
what?
okay, this is not bad.
It says that right above
That's
the
what it
skeleton
says on the
head
bottom.
on the bottom.
Yeah, the information that I read on their website referred it as an ESB, but I think we'll stick with premium.
Premium British beer.
So, talking about hype. Now
Yes.
it's time for
Ba-ba-dum,
Gotterdammerung.
Now, there's a little backstory to this that I kind of want to throw out there.
Go ahead.
The episode that we had my friend Jared Quigg on, I think it was episode 8. We did talk about this in the now lost news segment when our audio equipment kind of went crazy. Now, Steph, I assume in your notes that you have there, you kind of have everything I mentioned in that news segment anyway, more or less,
Well,
right?
I didn't mention all of it because I know we've already covered a lot of it, and I didn't want to bore our listeners with what they've already heard.
But the problem is, though, they haven't heard it because it didn't make it out.
That was in the part that got
Oh,
cut
That
out.
was the part that got
That's
lost because it sounded like
true.
a skipping CD.
I forgot about
So you can read that with all the jubilation that you please.
that. All right, so Stone Brewing
Preferably
Company's,
with it as much as you did for the Trooper Ale.
You don't have awesome background music though.
Hops. I don't. I'm sorry. I really
You
don't.
need like some German
That
music.
does make all the
I
difference.
wish I had German music. I'm sorry. You probably have German
You
music.
need some
somewhere in
like
this house.
hardcore, hard rock German music. All right, so Stone Brewing Company's 17th anniversary IPA, Gotterdammerung, 9.5%,
Yeah, once more with feeling.
boasting 102 IBUs. This was
Good
inspired.
Lord. Really?
Good
Yeah.
Lord, yes. This
Well,
was,
what was? I'm sorry. In comparison, what was the Ruination 10? What was that?
they
at?
were all right around 100.
Was
all
it? I
the
thought
double IPAs we did were right around 100.
Were they? I
and
thought
isn't-
something cracked 120. If I remember right.
They were all
Did it?
right around 100.
Okay. Sorry.
What's the cutoff? Isn't it something like 95 or
Yeah,
100?
they say at some point that it just doesn't matter
We
anymore.
talked about that with when we had Colin on.
Yeah.
That there's a ceiling that once you reach a certain level of bitterness, you really can't perceive
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
difference.
it's oversaturation. So, inspired by new experimental German hops, the brewing team is taking beer drinkers on an unconventional tour of Germany by way of Southern California. They used a grain bill exclusively of Pilsner malts and German hops with crazy awesome names.
Crazy
and I
awesome.
quote that
Are
like
they trademarked?
not that I'm aware of. Hercules, Herzbrucker, Magnum, Merker, Opal, Smargard, and Strisselswald. And Strisselswald.
Can you say that one again, please?
Yeah, I don't know. My a couple years of German are not helping me right now. They dry hopped with Sterling for a little familiarity to
remember
the
that.
Stone family. You
Sorry,
remember
I
that?
remembered that.
The beer offers a super.
He was there when it
I was
happened.
there. I was there when it got hopped.
The beer offers a superbly crisp mouthfeel with layers of bright bitter flavors. Now, despite the daunting name, this beer isn't designed to bring about the end of the world, but it just might destroy some of
There's
your
already a beer for that.
preconceived notions of what an IPA can be. A German IPA, perhaps?
A German IPA.
Oh wow, I
G
did a lot of
IPA.
that. Like, there's a lot of noble hop
Oh,
in this thing.
I had this on tap at Church Key in DC, and I don't know, Brian, if you've ever been.
No, I haven't.
I walked in there like, yeah, right, like this is the best beer bar in the world. You know, I'm like, I've been to Tornado, I've been to Monks, and I'm like, I left there and I was like, that's the best beer bar in the world.
Okay, I will have to next time I'm in the area. Go.
Oh, amazing. Their beer binder of their amazing bottle list and the beer's on tap. And if you're in DC, you need to go to Church Key.
Okay.
So I had this on tap there, and I was like, I need to get this for the show because I know we talked about it.
tried
Though
to talk about it.
It never actually got aired because of our technical difficulties. But I love this beer.
The aroma of this is phenomenal. I
Yeah.
get like the citrus out of it. It smells like.
You know,
an
I was going
IPA.
to say, actually, the aroma when I first smelled it, I was kind of like, meh, not so much. And then I tasted it.
and then you taste it.
Yeah, and so the aroma didn't really pull me in.
Holy
I
You,
don't
crap.
you
think I
get
would
the
have
hops.
expected.
The
You
aroma,
do
you're like,
definitely
oh
get the
yes,
hops.
this is a Stone
Well, there's
IPA.
one- yeah, oh yeah.
But then you taste it, and it's like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, what I
got
love
a twist, yeah.
What I love about the aroma is I actually did enjoy the aroma.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's not that punch you in the nose citrusy like dank hop that
Right,
you get from
right.
a lot of American. There's like subtleties and there's like earthiness and kind of spiciness. That's like, oh, this is a lot of noble hop.
Yeah, it's a lot of layers, and every
yeah.
time you taste it, you notice something different.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's what I loved about Woot Stout, and that's what I love about this.
You're right. Yeah, every sip gives you something different.
Something different, yeah.
Yeah, and I get, and maybe it's just because it is an IPA and I can tell this, like I get a little bit of citrus in the taste, and I'm wondering if that's just my mind expecting there to be citrus in this.
Expecting it.
But
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not,
not-
it's
it's
not
not-
the expected citrus taste.
Yeah, it's not
It's
the...
a more complex, like, well, it's not really lemon or orange, but is it maybe grapefruit
Maybe a
or
little
maybe a
bit of
little
a-
Yeah.
papaya or even like a mango? Like, it's more of a tropical citrusiness.
Yeah,
I love it. Citrusiness? Is that a word?
citrus-
It is now.
It is.
It's going on the word wall.
Citrosity.
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 There we go. This is how language happens.
We are working on a Beer Busters dictionary.
Okay.
Look for that at our 1010th episode.
Oh crap! We have to wait that long?
Well, we only have like a dozen words right now. That's not
true.
a very
We'll get
interesting
there.
dictionary.
We'll
It's
get
not
there.
an extensive lexicon.
Lexicon. Nice.
So, I hope you enjoyed the beers that we tasted today.
I did. My, if we're going to register our favorites, I'll kick it off.
please.
Absolutely, hands down, the XL 1945.
Me too. And I'm ashamed to say that because Gotterdammerung I loved
it
and
was
I was
really
so
good,
excited to bring it, but
and
that
I haven't
XL
tasted
was,
a stone beer I haven't liked,
Yeah.
and I liked that one, but that it was just it was unique, it was complex,
So
it was,
flavorful.
And I think it
I
helped
agree.
in comparison to the 1838. It sort of enhances.
We've come a long way.
Yes, we have.
Daniel?
I was actually going to let Brian go and see what he thought.
I'm torn. I liked the Gotterdammerung and the 1945. So I feel like if I have to
We're
pick,
all on the same page.
I'll pick Gotterdammerung because it doesn't have a vote yet.
There you go.
It,
But
it depends
it's
what you're in the
50-50.
mood
Yeah,
for.
it really-
if
it
I'm
really
in
is
the
a
mood
mood.
for something hoppy and a nice IPA, I am definitely going to go for that.
Yeah.
Or rather, if you're in the mood for something that has no rate being a 2.7% ABV beer.
Well, and
Something sessionable.
what I loved about like the 1945 is that is a good brewing beer. Like that's the type of beer you like crack open one and you can just drink it and it's very
Right,
drinkable
right.
while you're standing over a hot cauldron.
Yeah.
And you know the thing is, it's sessionable, it's very drinkable, it's very low ABV, but it still has a potent flavor. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
not
It's-
like weak
Oh
in
yeah,
flavor.
it's not
like a watery
and that's
sort of just.
that's what
slug
I
it
love
down.
about British styles is that like most of them are like in the 3 to 5 ABV range, but they
Right.
pack a lot of flavor. So
Yeah. If I were to register my favorite, as much as I enjoyed going through the Trooper Ale, Gotterdammerung was enjoyable. I would like to think though, just because I can, my favorite was my combination of 1838 and 1945, which I
okay.
would call
Yes.
the XL 107.
Yes.
It was
Boom.
brown and yellow, brown and yellow, brown and yellow.
I would like to say I was a big fan of the second homebrewed double that
Yes.
Brian
That's
bought.
true. Right. If
I like
we're-
them all, but
I
I,
like
think
both the
of
doubles.
all of them, the second
I
one
like
we
the
did
first double, actually.
was my favorite. I like the second.
And what's interesting is the second one, the one I passed around that was force carbed. That one is a much more traditional. Like if you were to pull off a very traditional double recipe, that one would probably be it.
Right. Okay.
And if you would like to try Brian's doubles, you should come to the Berks County Homebrew Club meetings the
Indeed.
second Tuesday of every month at Canal Street in Reading.
If you're in Berks County
Yes.
or
If
within
you're-
driving distance
or you
on
want to
Berks
drive,
County.
you're more than welcome.
So-
and it's $3 pint night.
And as long as you're not a creepy stalker.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, no creeps allowed. Now, let's not forget that the beers that we try will be checked in on the show's Untapped. Now, Brian, do your beers have Untapped? Have you done that for your homebrewing stuff?
I have not, but would be willing to set that up. If
We'll
it would.
need to add the ones that we tasted today.
Right,
We'll
yeah.
come up
Yeah,
with
we'll
some
put 'em on
awesome
there.
names for them.
Yeah.
Put them on there.
Yeah. So we will check those in as well. And on Untapped, we are just Beer Busters. Go ahead and search for us. We are also on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Beer Busters, and there's facebook.com/Beer Busters Podcast. We're also on Google Plus. You can find us on there. Just search for Beer Busters Podcast because Google Plus does not give you whatever.com/blah blah blah. .com.
Register trademark.
The big game.
Yes. And all of this and more you can find on beerbusterspodcast.com, where we're going to, as we were discussing off air, we're going to ramp up our production on the blog, and I'm holding myself responsible for posting more articles because I haven't done that in a while. But I'm going to do, like I mentioned earlier, the Zombie Monkey.
Guarantee without doubt that the beerbusterspodcast.com website will only continue to get awesomer.
Yes,
Yes.
that is true.
And awesomer and awesomer and awesomer.
Exponentially awesomer. Because that's a thing, apparently.
Like the big game.
Yes. But unfortunately, my friends, this does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters. And I would like to thank you for joining us this time around, as always. And it was the great Stephen Beaumont who said, anyone can drink a beer, but it takes intelligence to enjoy beer. And I would like to think that's as true as it can be. Now, I would also again like to thank our guest, Brian Ballantine. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
And those beers, the Belgians were amazing. For those of us here at Beer Busters, my name is Dan Baker. As always, I'm joined with my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Heffner.
and our wonderful fermentertainer,
Wayne Baker.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time.
Vale.
Adios.